We're getting very close to an important theorem you may remember from calculus, the extreme value theorem. But to prove that theorem, we first need to consider the effects that continuous functions have on the sets they act on. To have this discussion, it will be important that you understand this notation. Given a real valued function on a set A and a subset B in A, we say that the image of that subset B, f of b, is just the set of all images of the elements of b under the function f. Now, it turns out that continuous functions, as nice as they are, do not preserve openness or closedness. If we put an open set through a continuous function, the image may or may not be open. Same thing with a closed set. If we put a closed set through a function, the image may or may not be closed. Here are some simple examples. For example, we may consider x squared on the open interval from -1 to 1. The image of this open interval under x squared is this half-open interval, which is not, by definition, open. It has this hard endpoint closed off at 0. Of course, no matter what we put in x squared, we're not going to get any negatives. For a closed set, we could consider 1 over 1 plus x on this infinite closed interval from 0 to infinity. The image of this interval under this function g is this half-open interval from 0 to 1, which is certainly not closed. When x equals 0 here, we of course get 1 in our image, but then as x gets arbitrarily large going towards infinity, the images get arbitrarily small going towards 0 from the positive direction, but never reaching 0. So this is not closed. It doesn't contain that limit point of 0. Now you may notice this first interval was bounded, but not closed. It was open. This second interval was closed, but not bounded. It goes on infinitely. So perhaps you know exactly where this is going. If our input set was closed and bounded, then its image would be closed and bounded as well. Of course, this means that continuous functions preserve compactness. If f is a real valued function on a set A, and k is a compact subset of that domain A, then the image f of k is also compact. And as you'll see, the proof is pretty snappy. We begin with an arbitrary sequence, say yn, in the image f of k. To show that the image f of k is compact, we need to show that any arbitrary sequence in the image has a subsequence that converges to a limit that's also in the image f of k. To do this, we'll consider k, which we already know is compact. Since yn is a sequence in f of k, we know that for each yn, there's some element xn in k whose image under the function f must be yn. Otherwise, yn couldn't be in the image f of k. In that way, we get this sequence of points xn in the compact set k. Of course, k is compact, so this sequence xn must have a subsequence, say xnk, that converges to a limit x, which must also be an element of k, since k is compact. But we assumed that f is continuous on k, so if this subsequence xnk converges to x, then the sequence of images f of xnk must converge to the image of the limit f of x. But then remember, each yn is just equal to f of xn. So we could consider a subsequence ynk. Each ynk would just be the image f of xnk. So ynk is just the subsequence of yn consisting of the terms that correspond to xnk. So of course, if f of xnk converges to f of x, well, each f of xnk is just a term ynk. Hence, the sequence ynk must also converge to f of x, because these two sequences are one and the same. Of course, by definition, f of x is an element of f of k, because x is an element of k, and so we've shown that this arbitrary sequence yn in the image f of k must have this subsequence ynk that converges to something that's also in f of k. And so f of k is compact. So indeed, continuous functions preserve compactness. If we have a function that's continuous on some compact set, The image of that set under the function is also compact. And with this result, we'll easily be able to prove the extreme value theorem, which tells us that if f is a real valued function on a compact set K, then f must attain a maximum and minimum value on that compact domain. And we'll do that proof next time. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and be sure to check out my real analysis course and real analysis exercises playlists in the description for more. If you find my videos helpful, please consider supporting what I do by joining Wrath of Maths as a channel member. You can get early and exclusive access to additional videos and extra practice, and if you join at the premium tier or above, you can access the lecture notes used in my courses.